All right. So for practice today, as I just mentioned, I don't really have any specific prop usage, but I like to sit up on a little cushion, and that's how I end up hanging out and getting these poor tight hips relaxed and ready to begin practice. I actually got to spend some time with my teacher yesterday. In her Saturday class, she gets a lot longer and more deep into a lot of philosophy and theory, and had a really nice time nerding out about some stuff. I think I'll probably pull a lot of that out in our physical practice, but I decorations everywhere. I have the thing that we talked about for Dharma in class yesterday was something that has actually been a major, what's the word I'm looking for? It's been a big influence in the way that I approach teaching, the way that I approach sharing the practice of yoga with others. And so my thing is, my inspiration, the quote that I live by as a teacher, it's from Gallileo. It says, "We cannot teach people anything. We can only help them to discover it within themselves." Like I say all the time, I know bodies really well, but you know yours probably better than I do. And hopefully by us being able to gather and investigate in these practices together, you're going to continue to know your body better and better and better, so that you can continue to take care of it better, so that you can continue to develop that quality of connection and presence that we build up through all of these different mindfulness practices, including being mindful about this, human meat suit that we're occupying for a couple decades or so. One of the things that we were talking about yesterday is that, we should be suspicious of anybody who claims that they as a leader have all of the answers. Because even in times that I know for myself, and you get that point of knowing, right? Like, oh, I know, this is where I need to be. This is what's going on. That answer can change. And if I say, no, I have all the answers and I'm not willing to get any outside information, it is an incredibly limiting practice for myself. How awful would that be for me to then put that burden onto others, to be limited, to be not willing to change, to not be willing to investigate anymore? I mean, why continue living anyway, right? We live for having these developments on our experience. I can really get to know my body, and then also be prepared to get to know it as it changes, because it's going to. It's like I can listen to a Yob album on repeat, but eventually I'm going to want new material, right? Being willing to explore and investigate new things. So I'm really excited that we're all here this afternoon or morning to investigate in this practice in our body. And we're going to kind of get into all angles and try some slightly weird stuff. And I welcome you to relax as much as you need to pause as much as you need to, maybe to just sit in what I call lokasana, which is where you just kind of hang out and observe instead of necessarily doing every wild thing that is tossed out. So we're going to start with face brushing. Taking your index finger and thumb together, we'll take the squishy spot at the bottom of your thumb, start at the center of your forehead and brush outwards towards your temples a few times. And then going from the sides of your nose out to your temples along your cheekbones. And then tracing from the temples down to your chin along your jawline, the bottom edge of your face. And going from the sides of your nose down to your chin along your laugh lines. Then you'll take your fingertips and bring them underneath and behind your ears. So you've got this little soft spot that's back there. And then as you work up from the soft spot, you've got those bony spots. And when you lift up from the bony spots, you get a little bit longer in your spine, have some more room in between the vertebrae. I like to think of lifting up from that point right behind the ears as a way to extend the spine and maybe find a little bit more room, a little bit less tension in the neck. And keeping that lift as you drop your hands down into your lap. If it's comfortable to you, close your eyes. We're going to take a little while to investigate the breath. So you may or may not have already changed the breath. And notice, what does it feel like today? Is there some depth to your breath that you might not normally have, or are you feeling a little bit shallow in your breath? Are there any points where it's a little bit jagged? Maybe you're breathing softer, maybe you've already moved into that breath in and out through your nose, and there's no wrong answers, it's just that opportunity to be inquisitive, an opportunity to explore. And take a nice deep breath in through your nose and let a big exhale out through your mouth. Again, like that. For 3 ohms. As you open your eyes, start to come down to laying on your back. I'm going to come down with the knees bent, the feet on the floor. I tossed my little pillow out to the side. If you want to have that handy at any point later, feel free to grab it. But we'll start off just flat on the back. Let your feet come maybe even about as wide as your mat, or just a little bit wider than your hips. And take your arms and you can kind of extend them out in this sort of wide V shape. Take a moment to feel your back settling into the ground. Maybe you feel gravity beginning to relax some of the muscles in your back. And we're going to keep that inquisitive, exploring intention into this next little flowy movement. And I want you to be open to feeling maybe like a reverb or a bounce back, or noticing how the movement starts to impact other places in the body. Just get real like nerdy and curious about this. Just go ahead and let your knees drop over towards the right side. And then no particular timing, just bring your knees up and over towards the other side. And play around with how it feels if you try to slow and smooth out the movement, like trying to let every moment just be evenly spaced. Or you can take the knees up and just let them like fall down. And then take them up and let them like fall down. And have another couple of rounds where you're just kind of seeing like which ones do you like? Which approaches seem to serve you right now? Like, do you want to just flop around a little bit and let your body bounce back? Or do you want to stay a little bit more controlled and smooth? Knowing that that answer could be different today than it might have been in other practices that you've had before. Let's go about one more time each side so that you Feel loosened up, evened out. And then come back to the center. You're gonna wiggle your feet a little bit closer, maybe a little bit closer up by your hips, and then take your right ankle up onto your left knee. Try to keep your right foot firmly flexed, and by that I mean draw your toes up towards your shins. Keep the ankle strong. You can stay here. You can reach in between the legs to hold onto your left leg somewhere. And then you're gonna start to feel this softening with your exhales. So we're letting the hips unwind, getting a nice stretch in the rotation of the right leg. If you're able to think about dropping the hips instead of bringing the legs up into your chest, I would prefer that you try to drop the hips here. I really feel like it gets a little bit deeper in the hips, although your mileage may vary and your hips don't have to come down to the ground. Take 2 more deep breaths. A nice long inhale through the nose, and exhale through the nose. 1 more inhale. Exhale. And then take your left foot, drop it down. You're going to slide your right leg all the way over so that you've got that cross in your legs. And then open your arms out in a cactus shape. If you push down in your left foot, you can hop your hips a little bit more over towards the right and then drop your knees over towards the left. I only go about so far as my right foot kind of catches me on the floor. And then instead of trying to roll all the way over into this twist, can you keep the knees over towards the left and then let your right hip start to reach back towards the right side? And it's not going to get all the way there, but start to get that release into the outer side of the hip. One more exhale. And start to take the legs back to the center, unwind them, hop your hips back into the center, and then you'll take your left ankle up onto your right knee. Try to keep that left foot firmly flexed, so toes drawing up towards the shin. And then if you want to, you can hold on to this right leg, getting a little bit deeper of a stretch, thinking of your hips releasing downwards towards the floor, even if they never ever touch. I do suggest a breathing in and out through the nose. It can be a good filter. It can be a good tool to make you think more about the breath. But if that's not working for whatever reason, or you don't feel like you're getting enough air, or maybe you're feeling a little stuffy today, then let that piece of the breath go. Just breathe however it seems most reasonable for you. One more exhale. Then you'll release your right foot down. We're going to slide the left leg all the way over, open your arms out into a T, and then give a little hop of your hips a little over towards the left. Then the legs go over towards the right, and you see I kind of stop where my foot catches me. Because rather than going into a really deep rotation, I'm trying to really stretch the outer edge of this hip. Let the belly fall back into the spine. Letting softness come to the body with every exhale. One more breath out. And then come back to the center, unwind your legs, scoot your hips back in the center. And then I'm gonna roll over towards the left side just so that you can see me here. I'm gonna take my right hand and I'm gonna bring it behind my back so that the back of the hand is into my back and my palm is facing out away from my body. Now, many of us are gonna feel best just having the back of the hand kind of into the waist here, right around at the spine. Some of us will feel better having the hand more towards the opposite side of the waist. Some of us will feel like creeping this hand up a little bit. So maybe it even comes back between your shoulder blades, and then know that you might have to change once you get where we're going. And where we're going is just to roll back onto our backs so that you're laying with the palm of your hand being pressed down by some part of your back. And if you're like, whoa, this feels terrible, I want you then to shift. Maybe you bring your hand lower or over to the side. You just kind of roll off and give yourself a little bit more room here. Now this is going to be very subtle. It shouldn't feel like a huge thing is happening. You might bring your felt sense to the front of this shoulder, and then think of relaxing that shoulder away from the center of your chest. So rather than that shoulder creeping up and forward, it might broaden a little bit here. Sometimes thinking of this arm bone pressing down to the floor does that quite nicely. Sometimes that's a little bit tender. So get, again, inquisitive. Like, what can I do to open up the front of this shoulder, to have there be less crease, less lift? And then just one more exhale. You can roll over off of your hand, free it, maybe shake it around a little bit. I would just go to the other side. So you're just going to take your hand, maybe it's back there a little bit, maybe it goes up a lot, maybe it sneaks to the other side of your waist, and you're not totally symmetrical in your body. You're not completely even from side to side. So it's going to be a little bit different, especially if maybe now you're working with your dominant hand. If you're, if you're left-handed, it might be more tight. If you're right-handed, that side might be more tight. Can you find some sort of conversation with your limbs, with the arrangement of your energy and your body parts to open up the front of that left shoulder a little bit more? And again, it's subtle, it's small, it's not a grand, big change you're making. Let's go with one more deep breath. And roll off of that arm. I'm going to bring the knees into the chest, rock yourself up to a seat, and then swing your legs back behind you. We're going to come into child's pose. Now your hips don't have to come all the way down to your heels, but if you're able to bring them as far back towards your heels as you can, wonderful. I want you to come onto hands, lift your elbows up, and then push down into your hands so you feel a little bit more rounded through the spine. Maybe your forehead is able to come down. And if your shoulders are feeling tense, I want you to widen your arms so you have more room around those shoulders. And we're feeling the whole upper back getting puffy and lifted. Maybe there's a little bit more rounding of the lower back, curling the hips, the tailbone down towards your toes. Take one more deep breath in. And exhale to soften this. We'll take both hands over towards the right side of your mat, or maybe you just bring your left hand over onto your right hand and then find a place to rest your head again as you curl that left hip back as far away from your hands as you can. Being a little bit more spacious on that side body. One more breath out. Then move your hands over to the left side. So right, just move over to the side of your mat, and then it's the right hip that, instead of following over into that stretch, is going to pull back away from that right arm so you get a little bit longer on that side body. Find a way to rest your head. One more exhale. And then bring your hands back into the center. We'll come up into table pose. Now, if you need to put something underneath your knees to help them be a little bit more cushioned and protected, please do that. But if you can bring your right foot up outside of your right hand, then we'll start to take some little curling around in the hips, making some circles. You can even let the weight shift on that right foot. Maybe the whole foot isn't always pressed down. And then go in that little circle in the other direction. If you feel like your arms are a little shorter here than you want them to be, and you'd like to put a block or a large paperback book underneath your left hand, go for it. We're gonna wiggle the right foot in a little bit closer and then take the right arm up in the air. Now, do push that right foot down as much as possible. You might even feel that hip starting to pull back towards your back foot. And then instead of letting the shoulder creep forward, can you open the front of that right shoulder, even if your arm's more at like, I don't know, what would that, like 10:30 instead of 6 o'clock, whatever you want to think about. Releasing your ears out of your shoulders. One more exhale. And then reach that arm up and over your nose so we get more of that side stretch. And instead of jamming your shoulder blade back to your spine, let your arm come forward slightly. Maybe it even shadows your face a little bit more. One more breath out. And then bring this hand down. We're going to take this right leg and you're going to swing it out towards your right side. This is going to be a little bit weird. I want you to walk things back until you come down to seated, and you have to kind of creep that left foot out from underneath you. So my legs are wide. I'm kind of sort of facing off my mat, but it's okay. The yoga police won't come for you. We're just going to come forward in a fold, kind of in between the legs, just going as far as feels good to you. And for many of us, it's just going to be right here, finding the breath, maybe even with hands behind you for a little support so that you can guide the heart forward. Any and all of these options are possibilities that you may want to test a few out and then come out over these legs. One more full round of breath. And start to walk your hands back. You're going to take both of the legs out in front of you. You're going to plant the feet down, bring your hands back behind you, and then wrap your elbows back. Let your chest get really puffy. And now you have a couple options. You can press down into the hands, let the chest get puffy, and then soften in, moving with your breath in this smaller space. It's going to be a little less intense on your arms, or you can push down and lift the hips up. Inhale, exhale, let the hips pull back. Inhale, push the feet down, the hands down, the heart up. Exhale, pull it back. We're going to go 2 more like that. Inhale, exhale, really open that chest up. Inhale, and exhale. And then we'll swing the legs back behind and come up into table pose once more. So we start on our hands and knees. And then you're going to bring your left foot up so that it goes outside of your left hand. So the leg is a little bit wide. You've got both arms down with plenty of room to roll around in the hips. Loosening, step up. And then moving in the other direction. When you feel like you've gotten pretty even, we'll come back towards a more neutral place, and you're gonna wiggle your left foot in a little bit more. It's gonna replace the left hand. So the left hand is gonna move upwards towards the ceiling, and it can go, a little bit less than 6 o'clock, that's fine, but let the shoulder be the part that opens you. Firmly plant your left footprint down into the mat so you get a little bit more active in those muscles. Are you able to soften your belly and feel the rotation? Keep that as you reach that arm up and over your nose instead of your ear. What does that feel like? Is it different? Do you like it more? Do you hate it and want to never listen to me again and always toss your shoulder blade back? It's up to you. It's your body and it's your practice. I've got suggestions, but no mandates. Other than that, you breathe. One more exhale. And go ahead and bring your hands down. We're gonna bring this left leg out to the side. And as you come back, you gotta kind of sneak your foot out. I gotta adjust a little bit because I'm running into my altar, but I've got legs out wide once I get here. And then I'm gonna come out into this fold. And again, maybe it's just your hands back here. You're working with whatever degree of fold is available to you right now. Not worrying about whatever degree of fold was around before. When you were a different person with a different body and a different number of years or experiences on this planet, be here with what this experience is now. Be willing to be with what it is. One more exhale. And start to bring your hands back in. We're gonna bring the legs on in front again. You might have to scooch in your space a little bit. We've got the same options that we had before. You had the puppy chest and then the rounding in. You had the lifting of the hips and then the dropping the hips back down. But here's another idea. Maybe you don't put your hips back down, which gets a little bit hard to do. You gotta kind of maybe adjust your feet. You gotta come to this place where you have your hips up. My hips are not on the ground. And then I'm gonna rock up and lift the hips. And then I'm gonna pull the hips back and maybe they just barely grace the ground, but I don't let it rest there. And then inhale, lift it up, and then I've got 3 more. You may not have 3 more. You may do a lot or less. Good. I think this is my last one. I can't count. Set it down. So just a little core work, little arm work. Go ahead and roll those wrists out. Just finding a rotation in both directions there. We're gonna come down to laying on our bellies for a moment. Once we're starting to get some strong stretch through the front of the shoulders, we're gonna do a little bit more without quite as much weight bearing going on. So take your arms behind your back. Let's try to interlace fingers and bend the elbows. So I'm going to take the elbows, I'm going to reach them up. So I start off with this open chest and then relax my jaw muscles. Then as you reach your arms back, start to straighten-ish your arms. You might not get them straight, but you might. That's the direction you're going in. And that's going to lift your chest up. Now stay lifted. Bend your elbows a little bit. And then see if maybe you lift up a little bit higher as you straighten them again. Reach those toes back. Relax the back of your neck and your jaw muscles. See if you can bend a little bit in those elbows again, and then reach it back a little bit more. And then if you can stay lifted, you can separate your arms and fly a little bit freer, maybe a little bit more pleasant feeling. And then lower it down. Make a pillow for your head with your hands. Rest your forehead. A cheek is fine too. You're gonna slide your hands in by your low ribs. Pick your belly up off of the floor, maybe your hips too. And then you're gonna push yourself up. Try to keep your chest open as you do. So good. And then we'll bring the hips above the knees and walk the hands forward. Coming into puppy dog pose, try to leave your elbows off of the ground. It's okay if your head goes down, but I want you to keep your arms active. You're pressing the hands down, but this time, instead of your tailbone curling down towards your toes, can you curl it up away from your toes? You should feel the armpits pressing down into your hands. The upper back is feeling fairly strong. This might actually be a little bit hard to do. Maybe you feel a little shaky or weird or uncertain. You can always separate the arms more if that makes more sense. One more exhale. Go ahead and lift your head up. See if you can slither forward in a cobra pose. Maybe you stay nice and low, sneak those hands back, and let your heart stretch up. Let's exhale, soften down, pick your belly up, pick your hips up, push yourself up. And reach your hips back. Now you can leave your arms where they are. See if you can slither forward into cobra pose again. Inhale up in the chest. Exhale, lower. Lift the belly, lift the hips, push it up. Reach back one more time like that. Just as low as you can go. Slither forward, broaden those collarbones, open the chest. Don't worry about how high you get. Exhale, soften it down. And then you're gonna push down to those hands, lift the hips, lift the belly, lift everything. And then keep pushing strong in the back of the heart. We're gonna go back into downward facing dog. Go ahead and pedal into your heels a few times. Working out a little bit of the calf tightness you may have, back of the leg tightness, still strong arms into the hands, widespread fingers, relax your head. One more exhale. And then separate your feet about the width of the mat or wider than your hips and start to walk your hands back until your heels are on the ground and you can bend your knees. But if you can keep your legs straight, you can go for that too. You can put a block underneath one or both of your hands. Maybe you come up onto your right fingertips. Maybe you just look underneath your right armpit. Maybe you take your left hand to the outside of your right calf and kind of pull yourself underneath. One more exhale. And come back down onto the hands. Maybe bend, bounce, shake, wiggle your head around, little, I don't know, almost twerking kind of thing. And then come maybe up onto your left fingertips, and you can leave the whole left hand down. That works too. You might peek underneath. You might take your right hand and bring it to the outside of your lower leg and kind of pull yourself under that glorious upper back release. One more exhale. And then come back to the center. We're going to walk the hands back more. We're going to wiggle the feet about hip width distance apart. Try to let your upper back release. Keep your knees bent. You can walk your hands up the legs if that helps you. I want you to lift your belly up first and then roll through the spine. We'll come all the way up. And once you get there, I'm gonna do a little standing balance. We just did this laying down. It's a little harder to do it standing. The balance is very strange. Here's things that I often see in this figure 4 balance is this. You don't wanna do that. I'm gonna bring the hips back here. So I'm really trying to really think of reaching both hips back. Another thing that I often see is this. And then like this is not enough because that leg falls off. And I'm taking the weight forward into the knee. I really need to feel the hips going back. You can even hold on to your shin here. I really want to feel those hips going back. Doesn't matter which leg you're on. You're going to bend into your standing leg. This ankle is on your knee. If you're feeling real frisky, you can lift the arms up. Woo, okay. Woo. One more exhale. Maybe you rest the hips back a little bit more. And then you're gonna stand up, unwind your legs, set both feet down. Let the hips reach forward, let the heart press those arms up. Big inhale. And then relax, back to neutral, release your arms down. And then we're gonna go for the other side. So you're gonna take other ankle up onto your knee and make sure that your hips are going back. You're not having that go forward and you're not having your hips go out to the side. Hips are going far back. And you can hold on to your leg here just to make sure it doesn't go anywhere. That is A-okay. You can hold on to the wall just to make sure you don't go anywhere. as I tend to do. Arm reaching is optional. Oh my goodness. Woo-wee. All right. But if you're reaching, do it. Like get into it. Feel this expansion in your body. One more exhale. And then unwind, set your foot down, feel the hips go forward, the weight is in the toes, the heart is reaching up. One more inhale. And then go ahead and soften back to center here. We're gonna take right leg forward, left leg back, find like a warrior one space. But let's go into warrior one. So you're gonna have the front leg bent, knee going in the same direction as your toes, back foot is turned in slightly and you're not on a tightrope. Let's take the arms up and then do my favorite thing where your back leg, your left leg, you're gonna bend your left elbow and then hold on to the elbow and reach up. So it's like this. Yeah. It says seriously is my favorite thing lately. I am not getting sick of it. I hope you're not getting sick of it. And if you are, you just know we only do it, once a day or whatever. One exhale. And then release it, straighten your front leg. You can reach your hands down. You're welcome to hold your hands at your hips. You're welcome to hold onto your elbows or your wrists behind your back. You don't have to hold hands and you don't have to make this super tight. I'm gonna give you a chance to open up the heart again. We're doing kind of all over the body here, all sorts of different things. As we do this shape, here's what happens. Kind of like that figure four, right? Booty starts to go out towards the right. Instead of that, you're gonna reach your tailbone back towards that back foot as much as possible. I want you to try to leave this leg straight and don't worry about how far forward you get. You want to feel the two strong legs pushing down. If you can, you're even pushing the big toe down on that front foot. So let's take the arms back to wherever we're going to take them. I'm going to start with my elbows bent as I go forward here. So I'm going to go as far forward as I can and then straighten the elbows, which tends to leave my shoulders in a slightly more expansive place as I go forward here. Now, my chest is lifting up, right? Like I'm not curling in here. My chest is going out. So I don't have to go down as far. I feel many things. Maybe eventually my heart reaches out and down a little bit more, and then I notice whether or not I'm still breathing and where I'm shaking, and just be okay with the fact that I'm shaking because that happens. One more exhale. You're going to lift it up. You're going to bend into your front knee. Bring your hands to your heart. Your front leg is bent. You're going to try to come into the back foot, meeting up there, chair pose. See if you can stay low. So it might look like this. Where I moved as little as possible. And then I'm either going to go here or I'm going to go here. And in either of those cases, I have to drop my hips back a little bit more. And then if this knee is creeping out, that left knee, I'm going to push down more into both of my feet. And squeeze those thighs together, soften the belly, expand your collarbones, ears out of your shoulders. One more exhale. Unhook this elbow, go ahead and stand up. Release your arms, wiggle things if they should be wiggled. And then we'll move towards the other side. So we'll come into warrior one to start off with. I've got my left foot forward. Got this little bit of space. And a good hearty bend into that front leg. Let's reach the arms up. And then this time it's the right elbow that I hold on to. And I reach that right elbow up. Doing here. Oh, great. Strong in that back foot. One more exhale. Release that, straighten this front leg. Where is this hip going? Not out there, it's going back there. My arms are gonna come back. I'm gonna make my own choice about exactly how to arrange them. It's based upon however much mobility and how much stretch you want. So I'm gonna start me, my elbows are gonna be bent, draw them back, come forward with bent elbows, push strong into both feet, and then extend my arms. Now my left leg, I have a little bit more room in my hamstring. My right hamstring tends to be a lot more tight, a lot more tender. Sometimes I can go a little bit further right off the bat. Just observing those differences. One more exhale. Go ahead and lift yourself up, release your arms. I'm going to bend into the front knee, bring my hands to my heart. I'll lean forward. My whole body is in chair pose except for this back leg. So I'm just going to try to keep everything and just assemble it all in chair pose. fierce pose, 2 feet together, and then coming into a twist. If it's not the elbow, it's the hands. Both knees are in line. I'm squeezing into my thighs, hips go back and down. 2 feet pressed down. That's really gonna help so that that right knee doesn't curl out a little bit more. But if you can push really strong into your hands, oh, that glorious upper back opening. I did the big chest opener at the front of the heart with that pyramid pose with the bound arms, and now we're stretching out the backs of the shoulders. One more exhale. Then unwind, come on back up, release your arms. Wiggle a little bit if you like. We're gonna go about wide legs here. Okay. I'll mirror you. We're gonna do warrior 2. Go to your right side. So you're gonna turn your toes over. Go ahead and open your arms out. Let's take a moment to stack things up. Check out that this front knee is going out over your toe. And then you're gonna pull this hip towards the back foot as you reach out over. Do you feel that leg firing up? Good, keep it on fire. Take the elbow down and your left arm up and over your nose. Now don't take it back here. If you can bring the shoulder blade forward, how does that feel? If you really hate this and you want it back here, you can have it back here, but I have never found anybody that actually really enjoyed that much. We tend to find this works out a little bit better, so try it out. Your mileage may vary. Push into that extended leg, all of that extra space. Soften the belly in so you can really open up that side body in the back. One more exhale. And come on up, we're gonna go straight piece. So straighten the front leg, reach your heart up towards that right hand. A lot of room here. I'm gonna try to keep that as I shift the hips back, reach out, and then take this hand down wherever it makes sense and reach this arm up. Turn your palm back and then press the shoulder back to that hand. Then revolve it up and over your nose. Now, you might be able to come down quite a bit more here. Maybe you bring your hands together. Maybe you don't. Maybe you're just gonna reach right here. If you can get your hands down, you may instead take your left hand to your leg and then your right arm reaches underneath. This is just fancy business if you're feeling so inclined. You can really twist up and underneath. There's an extra spot in your hip here that might come unwound. This is the crazy business today, in case you're wondering. And then you can go ahead and come out of this. We're just gonna come into a wide-legged forward fold. Oh my goodness. Ugh. Like, wait a minute, I was just in triangle pose and then you tied me in a knot. I don't know, that happens. Okay, come on up. Great. All right, other side. And if you're like, oh, I want to be in triangle. I don't want to tie into the knot where I feel like I'm going to fall over. Stay in triangle. Have all of those layers and additions on there. Just like, let's play around occasionally. It's a beautiful day. Good day to get weird. I think any day is a good day to get weird. That's just me though. Okay, so warrior 2. They're feeling this thigh bone pulling towards the back foot. It really helps to keep this whole thing wrapped up, engaged, turned on, and well lined up over those toes. So we're gonna keep it pulling back as you reach forward. You feel it working. Work it, work it, work it. Elbow down, and then the right arm goes up and over. I have a tendency to tilt my head back here, which tightens the back of my neck. We carry a lot of tension in the back of the neck. You may notice the same. Can you reach your ears out of your shoulders to release that tension? And then press into the back foot and out from the shoulder through those top fingertips to fully open that side. Ooh. One more exhale. And lift it up, straighten the front leg, straight piece, a peaceful warrior with a straight leg. I'm lifting my heart up. Lots of space here. I'm going to take that into triangle pose as I shift the hips, reach out and over, and then come up like so. Turn that palm back and open the chest so I really know that I'm open here as far as I can. And then you can go back here. You can do the extended version. You might come down
Maybe you get your hands, you can bend your leg a little bit in this one. It's crazy. Maybe this arm comes underneath and you're like, ah! Yep. Standing compass. One more exhale. Oh, let it go. Bend what you need to, adjust what you need to. Come into this wide-legged forward fold. Oh my goodness. And start to bring your feet heel-toed a little bit closer, bending the knees as much as you need. And then keep your knees bent for sure as you roll yourself back up to standing.
Now back to downward facing dog. You're just gonna take hands down and feet back. Make sure you're strong from heart into hands here. Feet going back. It's fine if your heels are not on the ground. But finding that length from heart down into your hands. Maybe this down dog feels drastically different than the first one. You're like, oh man, wow, we opened up the backs of those legs there, huh? One more exhale. Go ahead and lower your knees down. I'm gonna roll the legs out from underneath you, take them forward. Just take the right leg in, you leave your left leg forward, and we're gonna come out into a fold over this leg and just go as far as you need to. Now, what often helps is to kind of scooch the flesh out from underneath you. Maybe you sit up on a blanket or a pillow. It helps to tilt the hips forward. Also, this is weird. If you think of this thigh bone pulling into your hip socket, it might start to tilt your hips forward. If you reach the thigh bone out of your hip socket, what tends to happen is we have this rounding back. Can you see that shift? I pull it in, I come forward. I reach that, I come back. So if you're trying to get the knee down to the ground, maybe don't try to get the knee down to the ground. Because if you don't try to get the knee down to the ground, you may have an easier time coming into the fold. I try to say that differently sometimes, because sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't. And if it doesn't make sense to you and you're like, whatever, I'm just gonna fold, that's okay too. One more exhale. And come on up. You're going to turn over towards your bent leg, slide your left arm out, and then you're going to reach your right arm over and then try not to fold inwards here. Can you instead open up? Maybe even push down into this bottom hand to really curl your chest a little bit more open. From that space, I have an easier time reaching my hip down. Let that heart roll up maybe just a fraction of an inch more. Inhale. And then take it all the way forward into that fold again, coming down towards that leg. Does it feel better, worse, different? Not sure. Just another exhale. And then coming back up. Oh, there were things going on there. I feel like I'm taller on this side. So let's go through the other one. I've got right leg out, left leg in. Or other side, and then come forward into a fold of your own alignment and intensity and capacity. Thinking of the thigh bone drawing into the hip socket if that's helpful to you, and if it's not, you want to like geek out about it later, you can always let me know. You're like, what the heck, April? I don't know. Think of softening forward. Deep breath in. Relax into your exhale. And gently start to lift yourself up.
You're gonna turn over towards your bent leg a little bit, slide that right arm down, and then the left arm goes up and over, and you try not to roll forward. I'm really opening up, and even though I'm lifting my chest, I'm not sliding that shoulder blade back, right? If the shoulder blade goes forward, my heart rolls up, maybe even pushing down to this bottom arm to find a little bit more space. Now, if you can hold on to your toe, don't let it become this. In this compass pose, can you let it unwind and come up and out? One more exhale. And then take it forward again. Just relax into that fold. Is it different? Is it more spacious, less spacious? Are things working? Not working? Let it go. And take it all the way back up. Okay, we're gonna come into deer pose. I'm gonna stretch the front of the hips. So I've got my front shin is parallel to the front of my space. My back shin comes in next to me. So yeah, so you've got your front shin. So I just stayed on my right leg here. Left leg is back. And my foot is not in by my hip. And I've got this very like X'd or crossed squared shape, yeah? And then you might come back just to your right elbow. Try to keep that left knee down. Maybe you come to both elbows. Maybe you lay it down. Oh my goodness. Now this hip is more lifted. I'd rather have the knee down and the hip lifted. If you went too far, you get to take yourself back up again. I usually cross over. I kind of lift myself up that way. That seems to be a good pathway. I'll lead us through that when it's time to come up. You're gonna stay in deer pose and swan pose for yin periods of time. Yin gets really deep into the tissues because you stay there for a couple. Hey, Jez. My dog is very excited about the neighbors. Hey, come here. Come here. I know, sweetheart. You're just protecting the homestead. Give yourself permission to relax into the space if there's more space available. Find an ease in your breath that might be able to move into the rest of your body. Three more breaths. And then you're going to take your left arm, cross it over, and just kind of doggy paddle your way up. Now your left leg, kind of slide that as far back behind you as you can, but keep your right hip and right thigh down on the floor. It's going to be different for all of us. It's not important how far that leg gets back. But now you're going to take yourself forward, maybe onto your forearms over that right leg. Then you might even come all the way down, maybe prop yourself up with a pillow or your forearms. Try to go more heart towards your shin. It's not going to get all the way there, but you don't want to be like all the way over here. It's too much twist, too much weird compression in the back. Try to go more towards your shin. Do a little purposeful fidgeting maybe where you like test out some slight alterations in your setup until you find something where you say, all right, now I can do this. This seems useful. Check in with the breath. Check in with what's going on in your hips and your body. Notice if there's resistance and if you can soften into that resistance. Give yourself over to it rather than trying to force it. One more big breath in. Nice, easy breath out. And start to lift yourself up. I'm going to take the legs out and then start to switch over towards the other side. So I've got this left shin that comes forward, my other shin, and then my other leg here. I'm not with the foot close to my hip. I've got this like squared off corner here. And it might just be down to the left elbow, maybe to the right. And maybe come down. Now, as I come down, I have to lift the knee up a little bit, but then I press it down and I let this hip come up. Holy. Give yourself a little massage, maybe if it needs a little extra help in relaxing. Can get spicy in that thigh. Two more breaths. And then your right hand, cross over with both hands on the same side. You have that little extra oomph. And you're gonna stay over on this left hip. Slide that right leg as far back as it will go. And it's gonna be different from side to side. And you wanna think more of the heart going towards the shin, although it's gonna end up more over the thigh. It's just the direction you're going in, and you come as far forward as feels good to you, supporting yourself however you need. You can grab a whole bunch of stuff and build yourself a little fort. Do whatever you need to do for yourself. Come to a place where you can allow yourself simply to be here and let the time change things. Not trying to force the body to be in a different place, a different way, a different feeling. Seeking what is. Being receptive to the way that it changes. Big change there. 2 more breaths. Start to press yourself up, and depending on how you are in your space, you might just roll all the way over. We're going to come down onto our backs. Get a couple more things before Shavasana, but if you want to have anything handy right by you, if there's any way that you like to be supported in Shavasana, just be prepared for that. I'm going to start off with a bridge pose, shoulders underneath the heart, push down into your arms, down into your feet, let the hips rise up. Maybe you'll hold hands underneath your back. It doesn't need to be a really high one. Let's see if you can feel your heart pressing up into your rib cage here, firmly planted into all 4 corners of the feet. One more breath in. And release your arms, your shoulders, let the hips come back down. Take those knees into the chest, give yourself a hug, hold it in, rock around a little if that is helpful to you. And after that's loosened a bit more and your hips will come into happy baby, lifting the feet up, knees are wide out by the armpits. Maybe you reach up and hold on to your feet. Maybe you hold instead onto the backs of your knees. One more exhale. And come back to that place where you're holding these knees towards your chest. Let's open the arms, roll your knees over to one side. Maybe you push a little bit into the back of that arm to open the opposite shoulder and let yourself completely let go into this twist. Maybe that even means that some of your limbs change their positioning. One more exhale. Move your knees over towards the other side, finding that place where you line it up exactly how you think you should, and then letting go of the control and seeing what changes. Oh man, if that ain't a good life exercise. Let your body and your breath soften into this rotation. One more exhale. And coming back to center, let's set the feet down, let the knees knock against each other for a moment. Taking this opportunity to ask yourself if there's any other adjustments or shapes or movements that you need. If you'd like to rest like this, or if you'd like to extend the legs, maybe you bring your arms down by your sides. I do like to give that little snuggle of the shoulder blades gently, gently underneath the heart. It helps to feel the heart more open. You may or may not find that useful or enjoyable, so you can take it or leave it, but maybe give it a chance. You can rest any way you like, but we will spend several minutes here in softness before we wrap up together. Start to bring your awareness back to your breath. Noticing the way that it changes once you give it a little bit more attention. Noticing if any changes come into your energy level or maybe a desire for movement. And maybe you just still feel very soft and not easy. Eventually bringing yourself though to that point where you can roll over, take this moment to draw inwards, give yourself gratitude for coming onto your mat today. We're exploring this practice together. Eventually finding your own version of a comfortable seat. It doesn't have to look like mine. You sit however it makes sense to you. Hands at the heart, heart lifted. Ready to move forward into the rest of our day, our week ahead with all of the same inquisitiveness and presence and open-heartedness that we have been cultivating here together. Let's seal practice with an Om. Deep breath in. Bowing down to the love and light and darkness, all of these things that reside within our hearts. Namaste, friends. Oh, thank you all so much. Hey, Noah. Thank you too. Have wonderful days. Hi, Kate. Thank you. Have good days. Let me know if you have questions about anything. And yeah, see you next week.
Thank you. See you next week.
Thanks, Victoria and Marco. Take care.
You too.
Bye, guys.